tied indeed. Alabama heading to their first Final Four in school history, thanks in part to that young man, Mark Sears, searing them up, defeating Clemson 89-82. Mark Sears, 23 points, 7 for 14 from beyond the arc. Alabama was down by 13 in the first half. They closed the first half on a 22-6 run. They've had multiple deficits in this NCAA tournament. They rally back to beat Clemson 89-82, a barrage of threes in the second half. And the highest scoring team in Division I is headed to the Final Four for the first time in school history. Back here with CBS Sports basketball analyst Tim Doyle. Alabama 89-82. Mark Sears, I mean, was just cooking there in the second half. What did you see from that young man?
Well, he was making really tough shots, and I got a chance to cover him at Ohio University, landed in Columbus, our drive to Athens. And when I got there, what I saw was Jalen Brunson Jr. Doesn't he have so much of that to his game?
That's a great comp.
Step back, making tough shots, and even though he got off to a slow start in this game, he found that rhythm. Then it looked like every shot he was going to take was going to end up going in. We just saw Brunson go absolutely crazy for 60 against the Spurs. Well, he didn't get 60 in this game, but 23 big points, a lot of them coming in the second half. This was a game, as you see Sears here, the first 15-54, no points. That really went along with Alabama and their storyline. The first 12 minutes of the game, they only had 13 points.
Yeah.
That means over the last 27 minutes and 56 seconds, they scored 76 points. That is a nutty stat from a team that's been so good from an offensive perspective. But it wasn't just Sears. 5 Alabama players were in double figures. Jaron Stevenson was awesome off the bench, banged down 5 threes. He had 19 points to a career high. And Nick Pringle, I know he was 8 of 13 from the free throw line, and Clemson was terrible from the free throw line. But as a freshman, he shot 36%. As a sophomore, 47%, and now 54%. Still not good. But you can even see with the form. He takes it, turns it over, but he made it some really big ones. He also threw the ball away. I don't want to get fouled. Woo! Threw it away there. Clemson couldn't get any key stops. They made some big shots. Gerard made some big shots. They finally got some threes to go on, but they couldn't get big stops when it counted the most. Alabama's
Identity is scoring the basketball. If they can get the ball in the bucket, they're going to run up the score. Like, we were like, it was 23-13 at one point, right? We were looking, we're like, or 26-13 was the largest deficit. You're looking at 10-point deficit, 13-point deficit. Like, all right, they're going to come back. Why is that? Is it just because they can hit the three? Like, is this the live by the three, die by the three team? Is that their only identity?
No, I think that, I think that would be unfair to call them that. You know what they are not is one-dimensional. They're not just Sears. Who was it last game? It was Grant Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, Sears is an amazing story. A guy who transferred from Ohio U. Estrada transferred from Hofstra. Grant Nelson transferred from North Dakota State. Give credit to Nate Oakes. He got the right transfers. Anybody can get transfers, but he got these guys to buy in, and obviously they had an identity. And they had a culture. Pretty amazing that you have a culture when you have all these new players in. And their culture was, we're going to be really hard to guard. We're going to shoot a ton of threes. And in this game, they made 16 threes. They shot 44% from 3. That was the difference in this game. And they're really explosive. Do they have a chance against Yukon? They're going to have to probably make 16 or more threes. If they do that, they do have a chance.
They do have a chance, is what you're saying. Alabama has 9 new players on its roster. They lost 8 players from last year's team. They were the #1 overall seed last year. They got knocked out in the Sweet 16 by San Diego State.
Rebuilt the team.
Who lost to Yukon in the national championship. So we've got, a little 6 degrees of separation here. But Yukon and Alabama, they're different teams here. How do you look at this matchup in the national semifinals?
Well, after watching Alabama today dismantle, embarrass Illinois, you have a hard time believing that they're not going to be significant double-digit favorites in this game over Alabama. And you wonder what Yukon's suffocating defense for a team that went on a 30-0 against arguably the best offensive team in college basketball. You just wonder how Alabama's going to stay competitive unless they shoot the ball extremely well. I'll tell you this right now, Jaron Stevenson's not going to make 5 threes because when you have a game like this, boom, you shoot up the scouting report. Guy's going to be crowding you. He's going to have to put the ball on the floor. But today, made some big shots, had a game of his life. They have the ability to keep the game interesting because the way they shoot it and they score it. But, you know, the way Yukon defends their size and, you know, Nelson could take Klingon out on the perimeter. I think Alabama could create some mismatches, but they're going to have to shoot the ball at a high level, which they did against North Carolina, which they did against Clemson.
I want to run through what the deficits that Alabama faced in the tournament. Round of 64 against Charleston. They trailed by 6 in the first half, won by 13. Round of 32 against Grand Canyon. They trailed by 3 with 5:40 left, won by 11. Sweet 16 against North Carolina. They trailed by 8 at halftime. They won by 2. In the Elite 8 here on this night against Clemson, they trailed by 13 in the first half. They rally and win by 7. Do you know who has only trailed for 28 seconds in this entire NCAA tournament? Yukon. So, to me, it's like what Yukon does is they will suffocate you. And if you can only hit threes, and I know they worked inside in the paint there with Pringle, but what Yukon does defensively is they will suffocate you.
Let him enjoy it.
Let
him enjoy it.
I am, but
they just went to the Final Four.
I'm happy for them. I'm just you wanted to pivot and spin it forward, so I'm spinning it forward already. If you want to enjoy Alabama, we'll enjoy Alabama. My point is they are like a python. They just squeeze you. That's what Yukon does. They squeeze the life out of you. That's what they're going to do. Alabama is a great three-point shooting team. They're the highest scoring team in Division I. But that's the thing. Yukon can play a game in the 60s. They can play a game in the 90s. So take your pick. When you talk about multidimensional, it's Yukon. And yes, I'm drinking the Connecticut water.
Congratulations, first of all, Alabama.
Yeah, tip of the hat.
You got to a Final Four.
It's amazing. Nate Oates was coaching high school basketball, coached at Buffalo. Like, I love his story to get here. This is incredible. Like, and granted, he's getting paid a lot of money. He's top 5 paid coach in college basketball. So you got to deliver on the big stage. They didn't last year. Right. So this is a moment here where they're either there's going to be history made in this national semifinal one way or the other.
Yeah, pretty ironic, right? It was Alabama last year that everybody was gunning for, right? And I know I picked them to win it, and now it's Yukon that everybody's gunning for. So, yes, the way Yukon defended against Illinois, I don't think anyone would have beat them on that particular day. But you could say that about other teams. The way that Purdue played against Gonzaga, especially in the second half, shooting nearly 60%, not sure anybody would have beat them on their particular day. The way Marquette played, most recently against NC State, I think a lot of teams would have beat them because they couldn't make a shot. And if Alabama goes out there and instead of making 16 threes, they make 6 threes, well, it's a 30-point difference. So, yes, that's a huge swing in this game. Clemson showed a lot of fight. Clemson just missed so many free throws. They missed key 1-and-1s. And when you miss the front end of a 1-and-1, that's 2 misses because you don't even get the second shot. So, they certainly had their opportunities maybe to tie this game up, maybe even take the lead down the stretch, but free throws ended up doing it. And like I said about Marquette, they missed all their threes. Alabama in the second half, they made all their threes. And yes, they're going to have a special night just to even stay competitive with Yukon.
Congratulations to Alabama to get to the Final Four for the first time in school history. That's awesome. Congrats to Mark Sears and his mom, Tamika Sears, who's doing the free throw thing. I can't wait. Look, this is a fun team to watch. Like, Alabama's a football school, and for them to get to the Final Four, that's a heck of an accomplishment.
Totally. I think the game has a lot of potential to be very fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna take Alabama having an extraordinary shooting night to keep the game competitive.
Well, shouts to Alabama. Roll Tide into the Final Four for the first time in school history. Have a day, kids. And we've got coverage continuing on Sunday. The final 2 spots up for grabs in the Final Four. Who will join Yukon and Alabama in the Final Four? We're going to find out on Sunday. Coming up, Yukon against Alabama. How should you wager on this game? What's the spread going to be? Would you lay the points with the Huskies? They've won 10 in a row by more than 13 points. Might want to lay them next on CBS Sports HQ.